Hey, Fitzee here, back at it again with another one. In the last video on the 49 Chev, we went and made the grill mount. We mounted the grill, and we also mounted the mustache. We got all that done. Next thing was we had to mount the bumper. The problem with it was there was nothing to mount the bumper to. When I got into it. Stick around. Well, we're back on the 49 Chev. In the last video, I mounted this eyebrow, mustache, whatever you want to call it. Some said this is a mustache because that's an eyebrow. Okay, so we'll call it a mustache. Anyway, got the mustache mounted and also got the grill mounted. Next thing I got to figure out is the bumper. So I got a bunch of things going on here that I got to take off of this. So what I'm going to do, I got to take some quick measurements here now. Basically, I want to know the height off the floor this here is right now. I'm going to mark it down somewhere. And I'm going to measure from the top of the bumper to the floor, the bottom of the bumper to the floor. So then I got an idea where the frame rail got to come out through. And then I got to take all this away from the front of it. And I'll show you what I'm up against. So I got everything taken off for here now. The grill, the bumper, the mustache. I took the hood off it as well because it's in the way. And I want to get the light down in there because I'm going to be working on this chassis down here. Okay, that's what I'm going to be working at now. Now, I measured up the bumper and marked the bumper. I got 5 inches to the bottom and 10 1/4 to the top of the bumper. And if you look straight in through there, you can see where that bumper will fall. And as you can tell, that rad support's going to be in the way of bringing out some sort of mounting mechanism off of that, okay? This had to go anyway because it's not in there straight. It's crooked this way and it's crooked this way, okay? I was over-exaggerating, but that's what it's like. So what I got to do is take this out. Now, before I take this out, I got to put a temporary mount in there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a piece of steel now, weld it across from here to here, because the fender's in the right location where I want them to be to now. And I'll weld a piece across here, and I'm going to run 2 points down to the frame rail and weld it on, weld it all there so that don't move. That way I got a point, when I hauls all this out of it, that I can actually run everything off. I could start building the rad support and all that around that then, right? I don't need the hood back on, because I made sure this was all stationary where it was supposed to. So once I get this welded in place, it'll be perfect. So I'm going to go dig up some steel now and make a temporary cross brace and a couple of mounts. So I got that made up, some angle iron, some square stock, and I got to weld it on the fenders here on both sides. And then I ran the square stock from the angle iron down to the frame rail. That's pretty heavy stuff. That's 1/4 inch, 1 inch angle iron. So that's pretty heavy stuff. Take strain of it. If there's any weight or anything on it. I've been sat here now taking a bunch of measurements trying to figure out what's going on because I got a problem with this car kind of being cocked a small bit and I got it raised up on this side here to make everything level, okay? When I got this here sat on the floor now, I'm taking measurements off everything up from the floor here down, all that type of stuff, and I'm good. The problem I get is when I'm right here, when I cut these 2 pieces here, this one was a little bit longer than this one, okay? By about 1/8 of an inch, maybe 3/16 of an inch, maybe. But I measured a bunch of points. I've measured the points of the spring pots, measured them up to across here. They were even. I measured from here to the floor. That was even. It seems like, because there's a lot of work been done to this frame. This frame got a big Z notch in it. Okay, it's hard to see there. And there's a lot of work been done to this frame. I'll be showing you as I goes, but it seems like the sections of the frame, this nose section, it's out of kilter. What I'm going to leave most of it the way it is there. I measured the cross member. The cross member is sitting perfectly level on the floor there now. So I'm just going to base everything off of that. I can't go in and cutting up everything on this here. There's a lot of tidy work done on it. It's just that I'm getting very, very precise with measurements now. Trying to make sure everything's just so. As long as I got my bumper in the brackets in the right place, the headlights are the same distance height off the floor. The back of the fenders are the same height off the floor. And the center line of the front suspension, the cross member, that's level to the floor as well. That's all I'm concerned about. I'm going to build everything around that, okay? So what I got to do now is I got to get this out of my way. I got to cut it clear here and I'll bolt it from the bottom, get that out, and start sizing up what way I'm going to build the frame to come out from the front. That's right. I'm spending time in that chair again. What I got going on here, I hauled the red support out of it, this section here. And it is an old Camaro, probably like a Gen 3, Gen 4 Camaro, red support got in. It had it all cobbled in, how he had put it in. I might use the top section of it, I don't know. I'm not too concerned about it. I come over here now and start measuring up a bunch of stuff. Sit down, come over and sit down. Here we go. The way they got this all done is like, well, like there's all pieces welded onto pieces, welded onto pieces. I'm going to cleave this off clean, right there. Cut all that off right from the front and go from there. I'm after taking a bunch of measurements, trying to get my heights and everything off. There is a bit of discrepancy here on this side. But the actual frame is what's strange, because the frame is like, it's all done good, right? The frame and everything is all welded in. There's nice welding and everything on it. But this side here is a little bit lower than this side, okay? Just a small bit, or a bit higher, sorry, a bit higher. Just a little tiny bit. Like I'm OCDing on this now, right? Like you can get away with a lot of stuff, right? So as long as the suspension components are all good, I'm fine with it all, okay? So I'm here now, sizing up. What I got done is I got 2 pieces of 2x3 laid here, okay? The distance from this hole to this hole is about 33.5 inches. I have these braces here that come out of the bumpers, and I'm going to put them back in. I got to cut them up and shorten the end of it and whatnot, but I got these mounting points right here for bolting on. This here is exactly 2x3, but I'm not going to do it like exactly 2x3. I want to have some movement from side to side and up and down for adjustability, okay? But this is where the frame, this is going to bolt onto the frame here, and it'll probably be another one coming from the side. I don't know, because the bumper's pretty short now, right? On the ends. But I'm going to put these back into the bumpers. These are going to be set on, so these will bolt onto the bumper. And then this bracket here, the frame rail will come out here. So right here in the center of this here is what I come up with on this point here, is 33.5 inches. So from the outside here to the outside here is 33.5 inches. That's what I come up with. Now, I don't want the chassis hanging down below the bumper. As you can see here, the bottom tape is the bottom of the bumper, and the upper tape is the top of the bumper. So I'm going to have it coming out roughly in the middle of the bumper itself, and that's 6 inches this block of wood is here. My plan is to go in through here and then go up on an angle and join it in there. That's what my plan is. I would like to have these here far apart all the way out here. It gives me room to put a radiator in there, right? I can drop a radiator down between it, and it gives me another 3 inches there to actually drop a radiator down. Why am I using 2x3 and probably not using 2x4? Because I got it here, okay? I got no 2x4, and I think 2x4 is a bit excessive for out on this end. So what I got to do here next now, and I've got my game plan in place, I'm just going to go up and cleave all this off, get it all off, get a nice spot to start from that I can start designing some sort of frame rail to come down, come over, and come out like this here. So let's chop all this up now. Well, that grinder made a short order of them. Got them cut off. I was going to use the plasma cutter on them. I didn't want to take the rack out of it. The rubber boots were on the end of it, so I said I'll just cut it out the grinder. Wasn't that hard to cut out. Just had to cut little sections out of it, and I think maybe went through 2 discs. That was it. So got that cut out. Closer look at it. Buddy, I'm telling you. They had quarter plate, the entire bottom was done in quarter plate. The whole back side of this, the whole bottom of that, quarter plate. And everything's pieced together up here on the sides. Down on the bottom. That was the original chassis, piece weld on top, piece weld on front. This was welded on the front of that again. Right? That's what the radiator mounted on, which was crazy. So, anyway, got that all out of the way. Now I gotta start taking some measurements and figure some stuff out. Look what I've been at. I've been here trying to get all the geometry figured out, and I'm just doing it. I always find it easier doing it to full scale. So I use it larger items like this here. So this is actual sizes and angles and all that type of stuff I figured out. This here is the side rail. This is how much it got to drop. This measurement here is to the top of the 6-inch block, okay? I worked it out that I would like to have this here at least 6 inches. I need 5 to the bottom of the bumper. 5 inches of ground clearance, so the bottom of the bumper is about right here. So this will fall inside here, and 10 is about up here. So this will fall in roughly where the bumper goes, okay? Then this is the height of the factory rail that's in there now. Now the rail itself got plate and everything well down the bottom. It's thicker than the actual 2x3 that I'm using, but because of the angle, it picks it up when it goes up on the angle. I drew all these out right quick with just chalk drawings, just trying to get some ideas of what was going on. Up here, this is the top rail looking down. This is the engines in here. This is coming forward, and this is stepping forward. This is the distance of it, how far they got to be apart. This is the angle it goes onto. What I did then, I got more precise, and I transferred them over to here. This is the engine in here. This is the engine bay in here. Then it comes back and kicks out. This is the front rail here, and you can see the way I drew all this out. This is 2 inches. This is 2 inches. That's 2 inches. Okay, I think that's a little bit wider. I think it's 2 1/8. That's the frame rail itself, right? And that's the way I got the angle. Then this is the kick up that I got. Okay, I drew that out. So this is 3 inches. This is 3 inches. This here is 3.5. Okay, because of the plating that they got on the bottom and the factory rail. But it works out pretty good. Okay. Now the problem I'm running into here is that this distance here, okay, would be the same as this distance here. Okay, but it's not. This is the problem I'm running into. I suppose it's not. Hang on, let me double check that. I measured that wrong, I think. See, that there is about 8 inches there. So this one here is what? This one here is 9 inches. All right? And this is the problem. Now, the problem I got is because of it angling down. So I'm thinking I got to decide which one of these is going to be the correct one. And one is going to have to be made longer. That one's going to have to be made longer, or this one or the other, just to pick up the angles properly. And this is what I'm trying to figure out here now, because I'm going to go ahead and cut this out now and start cutting out pieces of this steel here and see what I can figure out. So this is what I went and did. I turned around and left everything like it was, and I cut 2 of them out, okay? What I come to realize is that this is one side of it. This is one side of it. The angles remain the same on the opposite sides. It's just that it'll get smaller or bigger depending on which piece you're going to use. Easy way to explain this here now is, I tried this a couple times and I had to redo it again. So never mind this line here. I'm using the outside lines here. I marked the X because I want the X's to line up. This is the frame section. This goes to the car, chassis in the car. Well, I laid this in place here and I marked it out, okay? There's my 2 marks. So then I start rotating it around. Now this one here, when you lay this up on top of it, it has to go away from it this way here. That is way too long for there. But what I noticed, if I flip it upside down, it's the right length for this side, okay? And that's what I drew out on that. All I did then, up on this side here, I just followed, once I drew this marker line here, I went to this point here and this point here, and I started. And I knew the angle that I had to be on. So this is what I went and did. I brought this up here, lined up this corner, marked it, okay? Then I slid this down here, lined up this mark here, and I marked it. Then I flipped this over. Now this side here I found to be shorter, because if I lines up this back section here, like so, the front overlaps, see? So I just lined up the back line up in the corner here, marked it, line up the top one, marked it that way. Then when I got to this end here, I went and turned around, laid this in place, and I realized that side there lined up, that side lined up, that side lined up, and that side lined up. And I just marked that. So there's 2 points that this line, there's 4 different shapes that got to be, but the angles are the same. One, this is longer, one, this is shorter. I can sit around and probably make each one, but I do have it drawn out here now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut this out and see how close I am. Well now, that worked out perfect. I don't know, like it's so hard to explain what I did here, okay? Because everything was on the go here, the angles, because like this here, as you can see, it tips out this way here. And it also tips down, okay? That's the 6 inches that I wanted the bottom of it to be. I laid the block of wood underneath it and laid it up in place, and all the angles lined up. And then I cut out a piece to simulate the front rail, and when I lay that there, it lines up. It's wild, I'm telling you. What I got to do now is I got to make this over here for this side here, and make one for that. Over here, I measured from here out to this point here, 7 inches straight in. Like if you drew a straight line down there and a straight line there, 7 inches. So it worked. But this is the piece here. The way it's shaped, this is the way it's supposed to be, coming off it like that there. And I got all the angles right on it. It's tricky to do, I can tell you, because like that there wasn't a perfect straight edge, because when that comes up, that's on a bit of an angle as well. But I got it made, so what I need to do now is now I got to make, that was the right one, now I got to make a left one. Now I should be able to do this way here. The cut is already in it for this end here, okay, because of the angles and everything. So I should be able to line up this angle here, and this angle here, mark the back here, and then rotate it around, and then line up this angle here and this angle here, mark it across the back there, and I should be able to work my way right around a piece of steel and get the second one of these. That's for the opposite side. So now I got a left and a right down here. So then I was left with this piece here that I cut off the end out of it, and I was sizing up the angles and everything on this here. I went to size up this here and realized that angle there is a little bit different on this one here than it is on this panel here. So in other words, it was different than what's here. So I went ahead then and I made a template to go over there to give me some length, and I transferred that over to this here. Flip this over, and you can see where I marked it out. And you see how much I got to take off. Not a lot. It's a bit of an angle there change. It goes from about a quarter of an inch away to nothing here on this end, right? So I got to trim that off then to get to it, and that'll be one of my front rail sections, right? But like, you're probably a bit lost on what was going on here. It is complicated. I just find that when you're making this stuff, going 1-to-1 in terms of making it full size, drawing it out on a piece of paper and using little angle finders and stuff like that, no. I got to do it this way here to see everything. And then I'll make these little templates. That's a 2-inch wide. That's the same width as the rail there, right? And then I got the 3-inch wide ones, which is the same as the rail there, right? And I'll just use them, and I'll get my angles on them, mark them out, cut them out, and I'll build my chassis like it. I done the chassis in the Toyota, the same process as what I'm doing with this here. It's just that this one here, mostly in the Toyota, it was all straight up, down, back through the front. Never had nothing that had to turn out like this here, but I did figure it out. So, which is pretty cool, considering like that goes somehow like so, right? And, yeah, no, it goes like that. There you go. That goes like that. Turns down. So I'm gonna get this trimmed up now and see what it's like, and I gotta go cut out another length of rail like this. I'll see how far that sticks out, and I might just leave it that length for now and cut out another piece and make a negative one of these, or a left and a right, and then I'll have all the pieces cut out. So I got everything cut out and done a rough test fit to see if they're close to the same. So everything's closer now. What I got to do now is I got to sit down and clean all this up and bevel my edges. So I got to get that all done. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld these sections here together first up here. Then I'm going to set up the width here on the bench and get these ends here in the position they got to be. And I'm going to make a jig up. I'm going to weld steel onto this because it'll be a nightmare to try to weld one rail onto the car and then weld the second rail onto the car and try to get both of them the same. I'm going to set it up here on the bench, make sure that the distance between them lines up with the frame rails in the car. And then I'm going to weld steel onto it and make it all one piece so that it's not all cocked or nothing like that. So when I slides it in underneath the car, them 2 points will line up and it'll be level across the front. So let's get this all cleaned up now and start getting this welded up. So you saw me there cleaning up the edges of the steel, and then I turn around and I bevel the edges. So all the edges are beveled there now. Now I can put this all together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put one together, and then when I weld that together, I'm going to take the other one and measure off of that and see if I can get two of them. I'm going to build two of these on the bench, just tack weld them together, and see if my measurements that I put here on the table, see if these measurements here coincide with what I got put together here. So here's where I'm to. This thing is biting me, okay? I think I got to figure out what the problem is. I got this laid across this here, and what I did, I wanted to duplicate both sides. I welded this one up here, and I tacked it in place. Then I took my I-beam, lined it up here, raised it up here, got two of these to line up here, tack weld them together there. So now that I got two of these symmetrical, so here's what I got done. I turned around and laid one piece on at the bench, and I squared it off the bench, and I clamped it in place. Now I knew my distance from here to here was 32 inches. I was trying to get on the outside edge. So I positioned this one over here, squared it up on the bench, measured across, got it at 32 inches. Now here's the problem I'm running into. This here is not square anymore, okay? You can almost physically see the way that's corked like that. The distance from here to here is longer than the distance from here to here. I've been playing around with this for about an hour. I even got to the point where I squared this up, but it all was kind of slew down here. And I'm trying to have the joints. Now this is perfectly level here, perfectly level here. What I did is I welded some braces on it to hold on in place so I can go over and lay it and actually size it up. So you'll really see it now when I lays it over against the car. So I got it laid in place, and I got it laid on the 6-inch block. That is the height I want to have it, so the two of them are coming out the same. I'm not too really concerned about having the perfect height yet, because I'm more concerned about this in here. You look at the way this goes up here, okay? You look on the outside, the top is gapped out and sticking over, but on the bottom corner it's lining up. That's a 2-inch piece. It's a little bit about 2.5, that is, and it lines up pretty good on the bottom corner there and on the bottom corner there. And over here the top corner sticks out, and on the inside here the bottom corner is decent, but she's in a bit here. It's a bit of a slew the way it's done. I've got to do with the way this is cut, because this is a straight cut here, and I'm trying to run into it. By rights, that was supposed to come out and be turned on this angle here to match this one down here, and it would have worked better then, but I haven't got enough material here to do that, because I'm going to go cutting this off it now. This is what I got to work with. So I got to sit here now and figure out what way I'm going to do this. I might have to tap it out a small bit, make it a bit wider, line the top side up, or in the middle of it. I might plate it over yet, I don't know, right? I got to think about this some, because it's really, I've been an hour now trying to get this figured out, what's going on here, and I know what the problem is like I said, this comes out, it's cut off flush, and then you're trying to run a piece up to it, but this kind of like got this shape going on because of the way it is. This corner here has gone out too far. This had to come forward, it probably would have come to about here somewhere and cut on an angle this way, see? So, anyway, let's get some stuff figured out here and figure out what I'm going to do with this. So here's where I'm to. I turned around, I widened it up, I took some measurements, and I widened it up another 1/8 of an inch. So now it's 32 1/8 of an inch on the outside here, which is not bad, okay? I turned around and made sure that two of these were the same height. What I got done here now is I got this welded on the bench. I turned around then and squared up this ends. So this here was squared up like so. So they're parallel to each other like that, going up down through there, right? And I also squared them this way as well. So once I got that done, came over to the car and done the same thing over here. I rounded out the edges here on the end of the frame rails, as you can see there, just to dress them up a bit, because I don't intend continuing on with that. This is going to be 2x3 going forward from that. And I squared them up and I measured them, make sure that two of them were in the same location, and I'm happy with that. Then I got all this done. This is ready to put on. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to weld all this up. I got this welded to the bench here now. I'm going to weld these 3 sides here, and this side here as well, all the 3 of them. And then I'll let it cool off. I'll break it from the bench, flip it upside down, and weld the bottom side of it, have them done. I tries not to put too much welding. There's no good me going over and welding this on the car, welding all this up, and then welding all this up, because it's just going to want to move, okay? So I'm going to try to set this all up here now and get as much movement away from it as possible. So all I got to do is be concerned about is this area up here. So let's get to welding. So I got the 3 sides welded up here now, and I'm after letting it cool down. Yeah, so I'm going to cut this off the table here now, flip it upside down, and weld the bottom side of that, and then the front rails will be finished. Well, I've been, I'd say, well over an hour here doing measurements. Double checking, triple checking, moving stuff, tweaking stuff, moving stuff around, tweaking stuff, shimming stuff, taking another dozen measurements. This is something you'd never be able to film, okay? It takes just way too much time. I could sit down here and stare at this for 20 minutes and like thinking about wherever the measurements are to. Because the biggest problem you got with this car is everything's homemade on it. There's been a dozen fellas been picking and poking at it. It's a full custom Z chassis in it. You know, Mustang 2 front suspension, crossmember, all this. So there's nothing factory there, right? I got a couple of small holes in the frame rails that I could go by that are original frame rail holes. Playing around with the headlight heights. I'm using this bar here to measure off the height of the headlights. I'm still running into a problem with the frame. It doesn't seem centered, but I've after measuring the headlights too now in the front of the car, and it just seems like the whole car is to this side a small bit in the front is bolted on the frame. So, you know, that type of thing. But when I measure it up, when I X this measurement here, I get a square, okay? That's the biggest thing I'm into now. And I measure off certain points on the frame rails coming forward, I get the same measurement. This distance height here is the same. But the only one I'm off by about 1/4 inch, which is about 1/8 inch total, from the center here to the center here, okay? I'm off about 1/4 inch, so it's about 1/8. So there's something, you know, the body's got to be moved over or something like that. Played around with the heights. I got the heights the same, 8.5 inches off the floor. Checking everything out. I got tack welded in place there now. And as you can see here, the way it's shaped. It's got a very odd shape to it, the way it goes into the frame rail. It doesn't go in square, right? You look at that there now, it sticks out past the inside of it, but then the very bottom down here is lining up, but the top sticks off. It's just that it's like the rail goes in and turns like that, but it's the angles that I got to cut on, so I'm going to have to work with that there to weld them on there. That one there goes up, and it's the same thing, like when you look on the top, look down through it, you can see the top sticks off, but then you look down through it, and the bottom of the frame rail is tucked in, okay? And over on this side here, it sticks out on the top, and then it touches on the bottom. Hard to see here with the lighting. Okay. Move the light over, you see better over here, probably. Yes, there you go. See on the bottom, the way the bottom of the rail is lined up, but as it comes up, it sticks out, see? I'm gonna put a plating system in out here on the outside of this here, just a little diamond plate type unit to diamond shaped unit that'll actually give it support. But hey, that's it. I left these fronts long. It's better for measurements. The longer it is, the more accurate you're going to be. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to sit down and weld all this up, or weld up as much of it as I can. I got to do some cutting and splitting to make all this work. And but I like to get it secure enough that I can actually remove all this and just have the frame sitting on its own. And it's just a matter of finishing off, because I can't weld the very top of it here because these bars are in the way and I don't want to cut them out because that's the only support I got for the fenders. So I'll just weld around that for now, and I'll cut it all off later when it comes time to take that piece out, and I'll go on and dress all that. So let's get welding. You're not going to do nothing without a round. And there you have 2 front chassis rails. So I got that all figured out now. That's all set up there. What's nice about this now, the way I got this done, I should be able to put a bigger radiator down here. I got to build a rad support that'll mount to this. I'll make rad support mounts, you know, have a sort of the bolts on with the bushing and all that type of stuff. Come up here and have a rad support that I can put a hood latch on, all that type of stuff. All that's going to be custom made, okay? You know, there's nothing to go by, so I'm going to have to build a rad support for this. I just got to decide on a radiator, and I think I'm going to build it around the radiator. But I got this on there now, and I got all the braces taken off it, and she's on her own. I still got to weld the bottom side of this up, but something tells me I got to pull the motor transmission out of this because the motor's not in it right. And when it comes to it, I'm going to be pulling the body off chassis. So when it comes time to do that, something tells me there's welding underneath the bottom of this car. That's not done, so that'll be done then, right? But that's stuck out a good bit. I left all that there, like I said, for the reasons that I want to check and make sure I had lots of X measurements, stuff like that. I just broke her clear that time, and she tweaked a small bit on me, and just a small hair, probably a 1/16 of an inch or something when she broke clear. So when I've done all the measurements on her, everything's fine there. It's just out a little hair. You're not going to see that going 40 mile an hour on horseback, okay? The heights are the same off the floor and stuff like that, and all that is good. So anyway, what I got to do now is figure out the bumper, and just going to lay the bumper on there with the grill in place just to see how far it sticks off, so I can start trimming, figure out how much of this I'm going to cut off. Because the way I'm going to have it, I'm going to cut the end off it and drill holes into the sides of it and have it so that the bumper bracket would bolt on the side of it, much the same way as it does with a lot of GM cars. And then you got adjustment there. I want to have it so that I can move the bumper around forward and back, up and down, okay? I don't want to cut too much of it off that I got big, long brackets. I like to have it so that the bracket is beefy coming into the bumper, right? So let's lay the bumper on there now and see what it looks like. As to be expected, it is too long. So I just got down there and looked at it, sized it all up. I'm going to tack off 4 inches off what's there now and go from there. I like to have it out a little bit further. I like to do have the end of it looking presentable looking. I'm going to cut the end off the rail and put a weld band on it, make it look like a frame rail like from a 50s car. That's my plan for it. So I want to get this now set up, working, go back, and it can still lay on top of the frame like it is, right? There you have it. I took 4 inches off either side. Now let's refit the bumper. There I got it laid in place. Got a few shims mounted up on top of it. I got a clamp down, a pair of vice grips on the grill there because it's all hanging from the grill. And I got it all sized up here. So let's have a look down and see what it is like down below. As you can see, this is the bumper, is the bottom. The bottom of the rail is there, and it's above the bottom of the bumper. And we're talking, I'd say I got roughly 3 inches between that and the bumper itself. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to build a bracket that'll have a few holes bolted here that'll come forward and mount onto the bracket that I got for this, and figure out a way that I'm going to mount that on this here so it bolts onto this here, but the bracket will come off as this as well. And I'll you know, I got to figure something out for that. So, but anyway, it'll be bolted on there somehow coming out through the bumper itself. But I got the height and everything figured out there, and it's pretty good. So I'm happy we're doing the rails through, so I don't need to cut no more off of that. So that's figured out. So I'm happy with that too. Next thing is going to be figuring out where to make bumper brackets and how to make them. So as you can see, we now have 2 front frame rails. We got somewhere that we can mount the bumper to it. There was a lot to this. I was after taking up a lot of time, a lot of thought process gone into this, trying to figure all this out. But You know, this video's getting pretty long here now, so I'm going to leave this one here. I hope the tips were good, and until next time.